Alright guys, so today I'm going to be covering the 2.42 patch notes, which should be releasing in a couple days or so. I'm going to take this at a pretty broad level, and if there's something important I see, I'll talk about it a little more in depth. So there's going to be a new Path of Exile client. They're going to have a DX11 64-bit version, which you can now use by running Path of Exile underscore x64.exe. And it will be the default for the next significant patch if your system is 64-bit. So it looks like there's additional CPU improvements. So if you're CPU bound like I am, you should see performance improvements. If you're someone that records or streams, you should also see performance improvements because encoding takes a lot of CPU. You will not see improvements in performance if your graphics card is the bottleneck. Alright, so new skills. This is something I'm going to talk about a fair bit. So we got Blade Flurry. So these are the 3 new channeled skills. I'm excited to see they're all coming in. And I think of the 3, Blade Flurry is going to be the one that's going to have the most chance to have a place in a new metagame. And that is because this is a weapon channeling skill. So it strikes enemies in a circle in front of you while channeling, dealing damage to and around the struck enemy. The damage is continually boosted by 20% per stage. While channeling, there's a maximum of 6 stages. You unleash an additional strike for each stage reached once the channeling ends. So basically these dudes, like ghost dudes, fly out of you, and then when you release the channel, they come back. So I think this has a lot of potential for poison stacking and that kind of thing. So be prepared for more double dipping. I would think would probably be the best way to scale this. Now, something interesting here is that this requires a dagger, claw, or one-handed sword. We also know that the cast speed of the channel depends on your attack speed. So attacking faster will make you be able to use the skill faster and thus not have to stand in place as much. So while this can be, I think most of the builds that play this are going to be either daggers or with the fast one-handed crit foils. We might see some RT builds with the one-handed swords, but I don't really think we'll see that much, and I think daggers are going to be the predominant thing here. It's nice that they're exclusive to daggers, claws, or one-handed swords, but I don't really think anyone's going to want to use anything but a dagger because the claw nodes on the tree are just so bad compared to the dagger nodes that I don't think it's really going to be practical to use a claw. Now, you can use the Scourge with this, so maybe people will do that, but we'll see. Alright, so finally confirmed the gem color of Scorching Ray. It is going to be a blue skill because it's intelligence. So if you've seen the preview, this will make a lot of sense. You unleash a beam of fire that burns enemies it touches and decreases their fire resistance. Remaining in the beam intensifies the burning, adding a portion of the beam's damage in stages. Enemies who leave the beam continue to burn for a duration. Increasing cast speed also increases the rate at which it can turn. So this is going to be a very interesting skill, and it's going to be kind of tricky to build around. And some of the big reasons for that is A, it doesn't hit. So if it doesn't hit, it therefore cannot crit, and it cannot leech, and it also cannot apply elemental equilibrium, which means you can use elemental equilibrium with something like Orb of Storms to be able to scale the damage. But because it can't leech and can't crit, there's no need to scale those. But the issue you have here is that if you take a hit, you cannot leech back your life with if this is your primary skill. You have to recover from some other way, like using flasks or having some kind of life or energy shield regeneration. And plus there's the big problem that you got to stand in one place to cast it. So you're going to get hit by everything unless you like cast for a little bit, move to dodge, cast for a little bit. So I really don't see this skill having a huge impact on like, it's not going to be on the meta because it's not going to be like it should not clear very fast. I think the biggest, another thing about not being able to hit, that means you are reflect immune. But again, that doesn't really, and you also will never get corrupting blood on you when you use this because it doesn't hit. But again, you have the issue of when you can't really face tank anything unless you can just straight up face tank it with energy shield recovery. Unless you're doing something like funky where you use this to decrease enemies' fire resistance and then you take hits and like trigger cast when damage taken or something. Or maybe as a support for like a Righteous Fire build. I really don't see this being used self-cast very a lot. I see a lot of potential for this with totems. There's a lot of people talking about doing Chieftain totems with Scorching Ray or Hierophant and getting like 4 of them. And that could be really cool. I think you'd want to focus on cast speed because the Spell Totem gem actually decreases cast speed, which would make the totems pretty clunky for like having to kill one pack and then turn to another one. It might even be faster to just resummon a new totem for the new pack. So we'll see. I think there's a lot of cool stuff, and the build definitely looks fun, but I don't think it's going to be... Well, the skill looks fun, but I don't think it's going to be like a defining skill in the next meta game. We have Blight. It's a new intelligence skill. Important thing about Blight, it's going to be available from the very beginning of the game as a quest reward immediately after you kill Hillock. Okay. So it applies a debuff to enemies in front of you, which deals chaos damage over time. Enemies who aren't already affected by Blight are also hindered. This is an 80% slow for a short secondary duration. And you can continue to channel to add layers of damage to the debuff, each with their own duration, and it stacks up to 20 times. Now, I really don't think that this skill is going to be competitive in-game with Essence Drain. Now, the reason for that, again, it doesn't hit like Scorching Ray, so it can't apply Poison, and it can't apply Decay, which is what Essence Drain is doing right now to be able to scale their single target. So unless the debuff, unless the damage over time on this skill is just ridiculous, it's not going to be able to compete with Essence Drain for single target. And Concentrated Effect, even though it's an area of effect skill, doesn't actually increase the damage of it. So what I really think we have here is this is going to be a leveling skill that you'll probably use until you can get Essence Drain, or until you can get your Essence Drain to the point where it's useful. So because you can use this from the beginning, you'll probably use it until you can get Essence Drain, and then probably use it for a while with Essence Drain and Contagion, and then eventually it'll just go away. So I don't really think we'll see a lot of endgame builds using Blight, but I think we can see people leveling with it. It might create a new class of builds for racing, so that could be nice. A lot of this other stuff in here isn't very huge. There's going to be an item filter bundle with PoE you can select in the user interface options. So we don't know if that means that there's going to be like the default one or something. So we'll have to, maybe it's a user one that they liked. Who knows? Another thing I like here is the sender of a whisper message is now notified when the recipient doesn't receive it because they're changing areas. This will make trading a little smoother, hopefully, because you're trying to contact someone and it looks like they got the message but they never respond. Well, sometimes it's just because they're a dick, but other times it might just be because, oh, they were changing areas and they missed your PM. Removed Comb's Path and modified Comb Stronghold and Comb Stream to compensate for its removal. So this was really nice. I think this is going to be a really nice change, because personally I didn't like doing the Comb side of the quest as much as the Duresso side, because the Duresso area only had 2 zones you had to get through and Combs had 3, so it took a lot longer. So hopefully this will be a good change in that regard. Navali can now sell items. That's nice. There's some Sextant quality of life changes. The Sextant mod, which applied Creeping Agony to your maps, can no longer be generated. So Creeping Agony is the red degeneration circle that spawns in the last stage of Malachi. And apparently there was a bug where it would be invisible and people would just die randomly. So I guess they removed it because they didn't want to fix the bug. Or maybe they couldn't fix the bug. Maybe the circle was hiding under terrain or something. But that's probably a good thing. Nothing big here until we get to this. Monsters that start inactive can't spawn certain Nemesis mods anymore. So what would happen is you'd have monsters like the underwater, they'd be like these elementals dudes that would come up and stuff. And sometimes the rares would get things like Storm Herald, where you just get hit randomly and have no idea where it was coming from. I think they'll probably take that one away. And the other ones I'm suspicious they'll take away are volatiles from underground mobs and also corrupting blood. Now, although corrupting blood I'm a little less sure of. And I think the reason they would take away volatiles and corrupting blood from inactive monsters is because you'd have this mechanic where, let's say you're running around with like Cosprey's Malice and you're shield charging into packs and that kind of thing, and you shield charge into this unseen pack that you had no warning about. You one-shot the rare, and then its volatile blood insta-kills you. There's nothing you could have done about that because you couldn't see the monster until like you were mid shield charge animation, and you can't get out of that. So you'd have to have like incredible reaction time and like log out. And I think that that mechanic probably was pretty unfair, and hopefully that's what they were going for with this. Damage dealt by Herald of Obelisk variation, which creates areas of lightning clouds, can no longer stun. This was a problem, especially if they were like on underground dudes and that kind of thing. So that should be good. Other nice things here. Chateau map looks like it's going to be better. We're going to have some better quest rewards. So instead of getting a rare item or a fully linked item, we'll get a fully linked rare. So hopefully that'll make your quest rewards when you're like making your first character in a league a little more meaningful and rewarding, rather than just, okay, here's an item, I'm going to drop an ID scroll on it and vendor it, or here's a 4-link, I'm going to throw an alch on it, but I didn't get anything good, so I'm going to vendor it because I don't have enough orbs to actually craft something. So hopefully this will make that a little more worthwhile. Big thing here, Warband's members now drop their signature items already identified. So there's a signature modifier that can drop on helms from the Fire Warband, on boots from the Cold Warband, or on gloves from the Lightning Warband. And having these, and I believe there's also one that can drop from the Chaos Warband. But these items are normally blue, and most people don't pick up blue items. So it was really hard to know if the blue items they were dropping were the ones that you wanted. So hopefully this will improve that a lot, and people will be able to get access to these cool mods. No one cares about the Hall of the Grandmasters. 3D art for Sybil's Paw and Cloaks of Flame looks sick. Preloading is going to be a little better. Okay. So Master Mission improvements. So what we have here is basically this is a lot of backtracking and time investment fixes. So Elrond missions are going to be, the long ones are going to be shorter. Virici's missions are going to be easier, so you'll be able to kill some of the guards. You won't have to walk back to them after completing the mission. On missions where you have to avoid killing the Exile, they will be tougher, and you don't have to keep them on low life as long. And Tora and Katarina will have a lot less backtracking. That's the scope of the changes. There's also a pretty big one here, that when you die in a Zana mission, you will respawn at your map device instead of like at your portal. So you don't have to walk back as far, so that'll be really nice if you die. You're one of those people that likes to die. Alright, bug fixes. So some of these are actually really important, and a lot of them are just funny. But in terms of significance, I'll get to the ones that are actually significant. So the first one, the first bug fix that's actually significant here, that's actually very meaningful, is this one right here. Fix several armor modifiers not affecting armor against projectile hits or affecting it incorrectly. This included all armor granted by body armors. So there was this bug where the game would ignore all of your armor provided from your chest. So if you're someone like a Juggernaut who's like doubling the armor from their chest, and that's like more than half their armor, they basically lose it all against something like one of the big dudes in the Dried Lake who shoots out like a puncture. And so you'd have these high damage physical ranged hits that would just ignore your armor, and you'd be like, why would that hit hurt so hard? I thought that was physical damage. My character's meant to absorb this. So I'm really surprised they didn't fix this when it was found, but I'm really glad they're fixing it now. And I'm sure a lot of people that are playing with armor are very happy about that. Let's see. So here's another one that will be meaningful to some of you guys. So fixed a bug where the mutated Maw encountered during Tor missions was dealing far too little damage with its Caustic Ground Leap Slam skill in later difficulties. So if you remember, what his name is, Spine Snap, he's the very annoying dude in the sewers that jumps on you and like loose chaos, and if you're not prepared and you try to tank him, you usually die. He apparently he's not doing enough damage, so he's going to hurt more. So you have to respect him a little more if you see Tora in a map or in Merciless and you get him. This bug fix here is going to be pretty significant for those people running crit traps. The enchantment for increased critical strike chance if you haven't crit recently just wasn't working, so that'll be really nice. Apparently you could get stuck in the plateau boss room. Now here's the last one that I want to talk about here. Fixed a bug where spectral summon skulls from the Essence mod were unaffected by player auras. So this is something that was working originally when they launched the league, and then they had a patch and it stopped working. And this is a bug that a lot of people, I'm pretty sure, are very happy about. I had multiple friends, I'll have multiple friends that are playing support like necromancer builds, and they have a weapon with the summoned spectral skulls, and because the things are invulnerable, they can just do a whole bunch of damage because these guys' auras are just crazy. But suddenly they stopped working and he had to use a different weapon because they just didn't do any damage anymore. So that's about it for the patch notes in terms of things that are significant. If there's something that I missed that you'd like discussion about, feel free to post it in the comments. And later in the week, I'm going to be posting a video about things that I think are going to be nerfed in patch 2.5 with the next league. So stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoyed the patch notes.